Aesthetically speaking, Bloodborne should be my least favorite From Software game, but oh my god, I had a lot of fun with it.
AJ Review.
Welcome back, classy crew, to another first impression of a game, this time Bloodborne, which was another one recommended in the 12 Days of Heijay. It was my 10th one. This game, oh my god. Okay, so Bloodborne, coming in now from Dark Souls. I've replayed a little bit of Sekiro. I was not expecting to want to keep playing it. In fact, I went over my stream time because I had troubles putting this game down, but it's not all rainbows and unicorns. This game, I almost want to rage quit at the beginning. So we're going to talk about all that. But first, I just want to say, in terms of aesthetics, Bloodborne should not have been this appealing to me. I do not like horror. I do not like horror theme. I think this is all based on like Lovecraft themes, which I have no appetite for, no interest in. I haven't read or watched or done anything in that genre. But Dark Souls, knights, medieval fantasy, I'm all about that. Sekiro, like Eastern mythology, samurais, ninjas, I'm into that. So Bloodborne was not one I was expecting to like. But man, the fighting feels so good, and it has that exploration aspect of Dark Souls, which I like. And I know some of you are going to call me out of like, you don't even explore in Dark Souls. Maybe not to your standards, but to my standards, I do. So let's talk about my reintroduction to Bloodborne, because I did pick this up. I remember playing this 3-4 years ago whenever I got it, and I didn't even make it out of the house. I was in a house and the whole intro just freaked me out. I ran into a wolf and I had no weapons and I died, and I was like, this game's dumb. I'm never playing this again. So going back now with the Dark Souls mindset, I was like, all right, I know that there's a wolf here. I don't have a weapon. What do I do? And I'm just like, oh, it's already at half health. Let's see what I can do. And I started slapping this pooch, and I could see its health going down. I was like, oh, he's fairly easy to dodge. Thank you, Dark Souls and Monster Hunter. So I'm like, can I kill the wolf? And I just kept dodging and slapping him. And like after 2 minutes of just slapping the wolf, I successfully killed him. And I was like, oh, you can kill it, but it didn't do anything. So that kind of like blew my appetite. But people were kind of excited of like, oh, am I actually going to progress without dying? Because I learned later that you're supposed to die to that wolf, because the game doesn't really start until you die once, which is a very interesting mechanic. So I died to the next dude who was an axe, because he had an axe and a torch, and I tried to take him on with my slaps, and he killed me properly. So from that point, I went to my hub world. See, I didn't even know Bloodborne had a hub world. So I love hubs, so I was all excited about that. I got my first weapon, which is the saw, I forget the full name, which switches. And now I can appreciate switching weapons thanks to my Monster Hunter experience. So I love, like, you can either hit with a like small amount, and then when you're hitting, you can switch mid-hit to like open it on people, and then you got more range and you just swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Ugh, it is so satisfying. Like, I love sawing people. And now I got the pistol. I'm not a big gun guy. So the pistol wasn't appealing to me, and people are like, oh, that's how you parry, and that just confused me. So I get out into the town and I hear like this big ogre stalking. I'm like, all right, we're going to test my Monster Hunter Dark Souls skills against this monster. This is clearly a challenge for the experience From Software a player. So that's me. I'm going to go try to kill this. And so I died many times and I didn't progress at all on the ogre, and I was like, okay, maybe I don't understand how to play this game. We're going to come back to this later. So I kind of wandered the streets. There was a lot of mobs, and I was just kind of killing everything, and I was dying a few times to like larger mobs, or just not understanding where to go, not to aggro the whole thing. And for the most part, it was enjoyable until I hit a part where I kept dying either to a specific mob or the next mob, and I had to do this massive run back through the streets and killing all the same enemies over and over again. And that was really unsatisfying, and I was getting to the point where I'm like, I don't like this game because it hasn't hooked me in yet. I'm going down the same street, killing the same people, dying the same way, and I'm not feeling like I'm progressing or getting it. And so I was getting to the point where I was starting to get frustrated. Luckily, I think I made it to the sewers. The chat guided me to a shortcut, which opened up the world a little bit. And honestly, like, some people are saying that's not the true Bloodborne experience, but that little help got me over the hump I needed to really enjoy the game. Because now that I had a shortcut from my lantern, I could actually go out and explore different things instead of running down the same street. And now I could explore and take on different enemies and try things. And I even made it to a point where there's an opening where you can actually kill an ogre. Like you come up from the back from these bigger dudes and you can actually hit him in the back and then you kill him fast. And later on, I'm like, all right, let's try practicing against one of these like rock throwers who like bash you with a rock. And I got the parry where you shoot him and it takes off so much life, and it felt so satisfying that I was now starting to get into the groove where everything was starting to click. Like the combat was starting to click. I also learned, you have to be a little bit more aggressive than Dark Souls because you get rewarded. And I love this mechanic because in Dark Souls, I often sometimes slip up with the first hit and then I get hit. But in Bloodborne, when that happens, if you just hit back, you get that health back if you're aggressive and good enough. And that's just the little nudge I need to make the game even more like tolerable, where I'm not always worried about my health. There's also a ton of I'm always stacking a bunch of potions, so my health is never much of an issue. And overall, after I got over that first initial difficulty spike, I call it a difficulty spike, you might not, it was very comfortable. All the rest of the game kind of offered paths where I could only take on maybe 2-3 enemies at a time, which was way more comfortable than that street where you have to take on like a half a dozen at once a few times. So I kept exploring, loved exploring, found myself some nice gear so I have that more Victorian look. I actually looked like the guy on the cover, and it was just a really good time. And I ended up on a bridge where I encountered my first boss, which was the cleric beast.
Hello?
And that's when I started freaking out. So I went right into Dark Souls mode. I'm like, all right, we're gonna hug the butt and we're gonna roll. And I started getting punished. And I was like, oh no, it's not the same formula. How do you fight boss? I have to relearn how to fight bosses in Bloodborne. What's the mechanic? And I can't say I figured it out yet because I kind of just panicked my way through, but I took it on more like a hunt where it's a big boss, it has attacks, dodge the attacks, go in, slash it a few times, step back. And it was more of that. It wasn't, the rolls were not as helpful as I was hoping that they would be. So after some stress, I think I was very close to dying, but I actually managed to beat the cleric beast on my first go. I was like, oh, progress. And I got this huge high and I was excited. And everyone's like, that was an optional boss. And I was like, oh man, but also, oh yeah, cool. I got to find and kill an optional boss. So kept making my way. And I know that there's not much to say because the core gameplay, I was really just enjoying. I enjoyed making my way through the city, finding things, finding quests, which are actually given through the windows. And it was just way more comfortable than Dark Souls once you get over that first hump. So eventually I found my way to my first boss, which is Father Gascoigne. And this is apparently everybody's first major wall. And he almost walled me because, man, he's fast. He shoots you and he slashes you. So he's built like you. He's a humanoid. And I realize, I'm like, well, in From Software games, usually you have to when there's a humanoid, you have to use kind of everything that's available to you. So I'm like, maybe this is the fight that makes sure that I learned how to parry. And once I started parrying, that's when I saw the openings start coming up. And I figured I could have walked up to him and pushed R1, and I guess I was too far because at no point after the parry did I get the animated lock-in, but people told me that should have happened, so I don't think I was close enough when I hit R1. But I parried him a few times. Otherwise, he was intense and aggressive, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to take on these bosses. They're too aggressive. But just through reflexes and pure survival skills, I made it. I had no potions left. I was maybe 1 or 2 hits away from dying, but so was he. And I'm just okay, don't get over greedy. Don't overcommit. Just play it safe and find your opening and finish him off. And finish him off I did. And that was another just massive whoosh, huge adrenaline rush. So 2 bosses, 2 first tries. I'm ecstatic at this point. So after that, I pretty much wandered into the cathedral area, which seems to be a safe place. Made my way down as I explored, and the chat's not guiding me at this point. So it's all just my curiosity of what's over there. And then I make my way there, and just achieving getting there is so satisfying. And I think a lot of you are going to say that's what I should have felt in Dark Souls. But I didn't. And I made my way to a place where I think it's the old part of town. Anyways, it's a part where there's a sniper on a tower and you have to dodge his bullets.
I can't read.
That part gave me so much trouble. I think I was on that for an hour of just progressing and learning where to position myself. And at no point was I really frustrated with that run back because the mobs were fun to kill. And I was constantly making very tiny progress and learning where I had to go, that I think I got like, I'm like, oh, this is bullshit when I made it to the top of the tower and I learned how hard it was to kill this guy. So later on, the sniper dude who has a machine gun, I learned that once you get up, you just shoot him. You spam those bullets and you knock him over the tower, fight over. Like that's what you got to do, because going one-on-one with him, too hard. I don't have time for that. So this is a game, another From Software game. This is probably my favorite From Software game, which is in line with what a lot of you are saying. I did a poll lining up the 3 Dark Souls games, Sekiro and Bloodborne, and I asked you which is your favorite of those 5. And Bloodborne came out on top, which really surprised me. I thought Dark Souls would have more weight in the From Software community, but Bloodborne is clearly has more impact, and I think I understand it why, but I can't quite explain it. I just feel like the balance of difficulty, reward, and everything is just polished off so much better, and the core combat feels so good. The like just getting that feeling of cutting and switching is super satisfying. So yeah, this is a game we're definitely going into 2022, and considering I one shot the 2 bosses, I will probably pledge Bloodborne, because this is a game I'm not invested in the story, but I'm invested in the gameplay, and I want to revisit it, especially considering I was so addicted to it during the stream and didn't want to stop the stream. So thank you again for recommending this one. This is another 2022 game I will want to play through, and I will do it on stream. I'll let you know when I figure out when we're going to schedule it. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video or stream, and until next time, keep it classy. When I pledged to complete Bloodborne, I was expecting experiences in the bosses similar to Dark Souls 3, but instead, they're not very exciting bosses. Welcome back, Classy Crew, to another Bloodborne journal where I have pledged to play through all of Bloodborne, fighting all 22 bosses, and journaling my adventure doing that. If you're into that, be sure to subscribe, follow along on the channel to get the next journals once every week. But today I'm going to talk about why the bosses, at least so far, I'm about 6 bosses into this game, and they are really not rewarding me the way I was expecting them to. They're feeling more like Dark Souls 1 bosses than Dark Souls 3 bosses. And that might make sense if I think I recall Bloodborne came out before Dark Souls 3, and of course after Bloodborne 1, or after Dark Souls 1. So that might be what I'm seeing here. But I'm gonna share with you the last 2 streams, what I've experienced, and I'm gonna talk through the bosses and also share. Actually, let's just get it out of the way. The thing with the bosses in this game is they're fast, they're aggressive, but a lot of their mechanics is just, they're not leaving an impression on me. They're just leaving me like, either I don't feel anything, I kill them and I feel nothing, which was a famous quote I did about Dark Souls 1, or I'm just kind of frustrated because I'm not getting it. And that could be on me. I will take credit there that it could be my fault and it could click eventually. I've seen it in other games. But maybe we'll be able to explore that more when I go actually boss by boss. So let's start about going back into Bloodborne after my first experience of it a few years back during the 12 days of Hey Jay, a few days back. The first thing coming back to Bloodborne in now the journal mindset is I was really struggling with the hardware. I'm running this on a base PS4, and I am done with this console. I am so ready to move on. Like, the base PS4 is showing its age. But man, the frames per second on Bloodborne just like hit me like a truck. Like, oh man, why does this suck so much? I don't remember it being so bad. Now, to be fair, I have been playing a lot of games, modern games, all on PC recently, so I am getting more of that smoother experience. I think it's a lot more jarring going to the PS4. Also, I had gone into online mode, and I think that was like just tanking the frames per second because of all these like bone messenger dudes sticking out everywhere. So I turned that off, and it helped to some degree, but it's still pretty clunky. Really don't like that. Don't like the load screens, so when you die, you have to wait longer. And now for some reason, I think my controller, my PlayStation 4 controller, I think it's starting to drift. And I'm like, what is this nonsense? That's a Joy-Con problem on a Nintendo Switch. Why are you drifting now? To be fair, it's getting close to a decade old. So maybe it's time I either upgrade or just... Well, I can't. I have to play Bloodborne on PS4. That's the only place you can do it. But maybe I could upgrade to a Pro. So anyways, hardware is an issue. Where I had left off last time, I think it was just before the Church of the Good Chalice, if I remember right. Either way, I was getting into the game starting with the Blood-Starved Beast. That was the next boss that was just around the corner. And fair warning, I do not know the difference between an optional boss and a story boss. Another theme I'm going to share today is I have been so lost in this game. I'm at the point where I just don't know where to go. I go this way, I run into a dead end. I go that way, I run into another dead end. And it's not making sense to me, which maybe people love that because I heard Dark Souls 1. That's one thing people love, being able to explore. They took that away in Dark Souls 3. I personally loved the linearity and the direction of Dark Souls 3. But here we are in Bloodborne, lost like a chicken without a head. So the Blood-Starved Beast, let's talk about this experience, which was at the bottom of the old Yorham. First thing was the contrast on this boss. I just couldn't make out what was attacking me. All I saw was dark, blood, and anger. And the lighting is low, and I just had trouble seeing it. And this is a common theme in a lot of my boss fights. It's just like, what is going on? What are you doing? Like, I cannot see the animation right. And I don't know if it's the brightness on my screen's too low, or if it's the fact that as a content creator, I've got a light blasting in my eye. But it's not a problem in a lot of other games and a lot of things. But this one stood out as, I'm like, where's the front? Where's the butt? Where do I attack? But for all of my complaints, this boss was actually one of my more enjoyed bosses. The first time I went in with a summon because I didn't realize I was close to a boss, so I brought a dude with me and we lost. I'm like, I want to do this boss on my own. I think I can get it. So I died a few times, but it's a boss I was actually able to learn its tales of like, okay, it's going to attack me when it like does this. If it does this, I move. If I do this, that gives me the opening. And it was perfect because I learned how to dance with this boss. And I love using that term because when it clicks and you get the dance, it was good. So it was all about dodge, swoosh, swoosh, dodge, swoosh, swoosh, and he went down. Another thing is my switching ability seems to have gone down since my first stream on this. So I wasn't getting my hits in as fluidly and as good as I was the first time, which I don't know what happened there, but that threw off my game a lot, and it also threw off my appetite for the game a little bit because I was like, this was so fun and addicting last time, and now I'm getting smacked everywhere. I'm not switching my blade properly. What is going on? I think I was just having an off day. Anyways, from there, we got the ability to unlock the Chalice Dungeon, which I went and took a peek at, and I made my way to my first boss, which was an undead giant. And I didn't like that. He pummeled me. Actually, you walk into the room, there's a portal. It's your first time here. You're like, what's going on? What is this? And out of the portal comes a massive giant that jumps at you and smacks the life out of you. So I kind of tried 2-3 more times on that, and then I noped, left, kept exploring, and the exploration, I really am enjoying the exploration more than the boss fights in this game, which is different than in Dark Souls, where I was enjoying more the boss fights than the exploration. So I met a lady of the night who sells her flesh, if you know what I mean. And finally, I made a friend. She came back with me to the Church of Sanctuary or Sanctity, whatever it is. So we have a safe place in the world, which is massively different unless someone attacks it. And I get to bring friends back to this place. I love this concept. In these dark horror games, to have a nice little safe place that you can recruit people, bring them there and feel safe, it's good. It's like the Firelink Shrine I had in Dark Souls until somebody went and killed my Firekeeper and just ruined it for everybody. So that happened. What else? The next boss that stream and the final one was Vicar Amelia, which this is the boss that I wasn't even mad. I fought it and I was like, I don't like you. I just don't like you. Again, I couldn't quite make out what it was doing. If I would get close to hit it, I was stuck under all of its toilet paper. This thing is overly complex and its design. I don't know why they wanted to give it so much toilet paper, but you get close, you're under the toilet paper. You get far, it's just toilet paper everywhere, and you're like, how do I attack this thing? What is it? Like, what is its shape? It's like a four-legged creature. I understand that part, but I had so much troubles making it out. Again, I went in with a summon on this one. Every time I hit it, like, its health was barely budging, so I don't know if I was under-leveled or my weapon was under-leveled, but I was not doing a lot of damage on this thing. But I kept hacking away, sticking to the butt. I think it was the butt. It was under a lot of toilet paper. I don't know. And I finally killed it, and I was just like, nope. I don't need to fight this thing ever again. I don't want to fight this thing ever again. It was not cool. It was not fun. It was just in the way. And then from there, I got the amulet. We learned about the code, which was Fear of the Old Blood, which again, also the story, I have no idea what's going on. But to be fair, I never know what's going on in the Soulsborne games. So, you play through it and then you figure out the story after of like, oh, that's how it all connects. At least that's how I play. Now, the second stream was a lot more fun. I was a bit more on my game this time. I experimented with a lot of different weapons. I experimented with 2 additional weapons. So I've been using my Switch saw, and I tried the Kirk hammer, which was the chat's most voted weapon of choice. And I love the Kirk hammer. I love the fact that you have a big slab of metal on your back, a sword that you shove in the slab of metal, and then you just smack everybody in front of you with it. It's great because you can just go barreling with your hammer. You get hit, it doesn't matter because you're doing so much damage. You recover your health by smacking the hammer. So I went through a little bit of a period of just smashing everything in my sight with this hammer. It's not my preferred playstyle, so I did switch back to the Switch saw. And then, of course, I had to try the Hunter Axe because in so many games, I always got to try the axe. So I got the axe. Love the idea that it's like a one-handed axe, and then you can switch it into a long, I don't know what you call a javelin with an axe. But it didn't click with me for the moveset. I really love the morphing ability, and they all morph, but I feel the Switch saw morphs within the melee and actually does damage, whereas switching your hammer or switching your axe kind of leaves you massively open for attack, and it usually fails for me. So the Kirk hammer is my new secondary weapon. So if I have a place that's a little hard to get through and I can't parry or I can't just mash people, I go in with the hammer. I was like, all right, get out the way. So from there, I made my way down. Again, I'm lost, so I keep going back to this Church of Sanctity, going in a direction, seeing where that takes me. So this time I made it to a place where it was the Witch of Hemwick. And I go and I kill the first thing and it dies in 3 hits. And the health bars there, I'm like, oh, this is the gimmick fight. All right, let's figure out the gimmick. Right away, the trigger went off. So I start running around. I see a red light, and then there's an old lady there, and I start hacking her, and I see the life go down. I was like, aha, here's the gimmick. And then I thought I got it, but then sometimes I'd hit the old lady, and the health bar wouldn't go down. I was like, what is going on here? So I got confused. I'm like, maybe I have to kill the mobs to be able to unlock the health of the old lady so I can smack that health down. So then I was just killing everything and nothing was working. I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I just got to keep wailing on this little old lady because sometimes the health goes down, sometimes it doesn't. And then I discovered that there are 2 old ladies and one of them is not showing their health bars. So there's a second gimmick to the main gimmick. But that didn't stop us. First try, we got it. And then that unlocked the ability for me to get runes. I love the fact that runes is even a thing in this game. I love that you can have multiple runes active. I did not write which ones I activated. I'll share that in the next journal. And then after that, I made it to a place. So, okay, before we get to that place, I wandered to another area. So where we fought Amelia. Okay, I'm going to contextualize it if you've played the game. Where you fight Amelia is a church. And you make your way down from wherever you are. Let's say from the Church of Sanctity, the safe place, you make your way down to the Amelia Church. And then that's a dead end. But you can backtrack just before going to the church. You can go right or you can go left. If you go left, that's the forest, and that's where the Witch of Hemwick is, and that's a dead end. You unlock the rune ability, but it's a dead end. If you go right, that is a heck of a lot of pain, heck of a lot of monsters, and all of that just to discover it's a freaking dead end. There's a big ghostly monster, and I tried to open the door, and he's just like, ugh, and he fondles you and tosses you aside with half your health. It wasn't a pleasant experience, so I had to get myself out of there. And where did I go from there? Oh, I went to, so I got captured by the bagman who send you in prison into this new place. So that opened up a new portal for me. Portal by fast travel. So I decided, all right, let's go explore that. So I fought some big pigs. I ran away from lots of bagmen. I killed some dogs, and I came across a beast here called the Dark Beast Pearl. And so Amelia, I didn't care for. Pearl, I hated this boss. So I got up, I ran up to him, swipes me twice, I'm dead. And I'm just like, okay, did I do something wrong? So I go back, I summon a friend, swipe twice, dead. I was like, what is going on? So I'm trying to go behind him, swipe, dead. I try to go in front of him, swipe, dead. And people are like, oh, you got it. People are detailing strategies in the chat. And I was like, guys, I can't even survive the initial swipe. I can't dodge this, and I can't position myself. Forget your strategy. I can't even make it past like the first little bit of the fight. So this was really like pissing me off. I'm like, am I just under leveled? I think if I recall right, I'm in my 40s in terms of level. So it sounds like I'm right. My weapon is leveled up all the way. I think I'm at like +6 or +7. I've got some gems on those things to like get everything in my arsenal. I've got maxed out and optimized to the best of my ability. But this thing, I just couldn't figure it out. One thing that was throwing me off was the targeting. So you can target the body or the head, and the camera was just going wild and messing with me, and I just couldn't see. So I turned off the targeting. I tried to stay near its legs, and I know you can do more damage on the head. And I did the summon, and somehow the summon was keeping the aggro on him, and I was just wailing with him on this beast, and it died. I'm just like, I don't even want to do this again. I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying these fights. And it's so wild because the boss fights is what I loved about the Dark Souls games and the Monster Hunter games. I don't know if it hasn't clicked yet, or if these bosses specifically are bad and it gets better after, but it's jarring when like I thought I finally understood how to fight Dark Souls bosses, and now Bloodborne is giving me this. And it's so hit or miss. Like some bosses, I get them in my first try, and then some bosses are just absolutely horrendous where I just can't figure out how I'm supposed to use the mechanics of the game with the mechanics of the boss. And yeah, it's either like a cheese fight, like Amelia, I was just smacking on the butt, and then this Pearl thing, I can't even tell you how I beat it. It just, with the summon keeping its attention mostly. So that paired with the hardware problems of an old PS4, paired with a few additional things I don't like about Bloodborne, and like this list might grow, but the fact that your blood vials, the potions, you have to go out of your way to buy them or restock them. When you're stuck on a boss and you deplete your reserves of potions, you then have to travel back and either go to a place where you can farm them. I farm them on the bridge at the beginning, or you have to go farm the souls, whatever they're called, and buy the potions. That's like a time sink that Dark Souls just didn't have, you know, when you die. And I'm actually appreciating mechanics of Dark Souls, which is crazy. So the blood vial, I really don't like that aspect. The travel, the fast travel, you always have to travel back to the hub to travel somewhere else. Add in the disgusting load screens of the PS4, it sours the experience there. So if you get stuck on a boss with a wall, you have to load screen your way back somewhere to farm out some blood vials, to load screen your way back to the boss, to die again, to load screen it's not a good loop when you start failing. That's what I'm trying to say. Because all those things come together and it's just not so good. At this point, I'm trying to remember where I am. I think I am still lost. I don't know where to go from here. Yeah, I don't know. I feel I've exhausted all my options on where to go. And people keep telling me, go back to the protective church and go out this different path. And I'm like, there are like 3 paths out of this church. I've explored all 3 of them. They've all led me to dead ends. I don't know where to go from here. I think the first stream I did, like it was more linear and it was brighter. I remember there was more lighting. I could see better and it felt like there was purpose. But right now I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing it. And I'm just running into like these bosses, which are not enjoyable. So I went from like being super hyped, pledging the game, and now it's just sour. I'm still in it because we pledged, but I'm like, oh man, did I make a mistake pledging this? Does this game get better? Like I know there's fans, and I know a lot of you have said Bloodborne is the best Soulsborne you've played. The majority of you have said this is the best Soulsborne. I'm like, I hope it gets better because right now it just keeps like racking it up some hate points against it. So we'll see where we go next. I literally don't know where to go, but I'm sure I'll figure it out on the next stream. So I'll see you there or on the next journal. And until next time, keep it classy. If my journals are anything to go by, I'd say Soulsborne games have a pacing issue because it goes from I love it, I hate it, I love it, I hate it, and it's the same thing in Welcome back, Classic Crew, to a Bloodborne journal where I have pledged to kill all the bosses, at least 22 of them as per Google, in Bloodborne and document my whole journey. If you're all about that, you hit the subscribe button, you watch the videos every week, you leave a like, and you praise me and the editor for the great work we do so that we keep doing it again. Honestly, though, you don't have to praise. You can criticize all you like. I take criticism. I like criticism. A lot of you guys said last week, what do you mean you hate Bloodborne? What do you mean? You're just not playing it right. You gotta be more aggressive. You go after the limbs. That's how the bosses are fun. And then some of you were like, you know what? The bosses aren't that good in the beginning. And that is conversation. That is good stuff. And in fact, despite my complaining of the first 6 bosses of this game that I played, all of you are like, look, Jay, we know the witches suck. And I'm like, honestly, the witches were one of my favorite fights. Like, I actually enjoyed the witches. It seems most people don't, but I like that there was like a puzzle element to it that I have to figure it out. And I did, and I had fun. So anyways, the past stream, I actually enjoyed myself because a lot of my gripes were not happening. For one, as soon as I started playing, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm in the zone tonight, and I feel that I'm getting the switching action and my combos are coming in good. Like right from the beginning of the stream, like, okay, tonight's gonna be a good night. So I don't know if there's like a certain mindset you have to be to play Soulsborne games, but I was in it. The next thing is I had a direction. So in the last journal, I was really lost. I had completely forgotten that I noped out of the place where I got smacked in the face by a tree. So I was like, oh yeah, there was that area. So I went back to the woods and we bypassed the trap and I had a whole new section to explore. So that was really enjoyable. And as I was exploring that section, all the enemies were about 2 to 3 hits, like a fair challenge, I would say. They weren't mobbing me. I was able to like go 1-on-1 or 1-on-2, 1-on-3 at most. And I was able to hold my own. It was like a comfortable level of challenge. And they were also dropping the blood vials. So I didn't have to, I was able to manage getting hit a bit by having some collectibles. This whole stretch, the couple of hours I was in there, felt good and balanced. And that is when Soulsborne, like, when that clicks in Soulsborne, where like I'm getting comfortably challenged, and I'm able to progress and explore in a comfortable way, but it was just the right level of challenge. And there are phases in these Soulsborne games where that happens, and then sometimes they just go too hard. Like at the end of this stream, which we're gonna talk about when we got to Canehurst Castle. So I explored these woods. We got to a snake part, which was really creepy. We had like people with snakes coming out of their heads, which was creepy. We had the little snakes, which were kind of cute, and they were very easy to kill. So I liked the little snakes. But then they had the big daddy snakes, and I didn't like the big daddy snakes. They spit vomit at me, and they could take a lot of hits, but mostly they were scary, so I stayed away from them. And then there was the daddy pigs, which we fought them before, but now we have to fight them in the woods. And they're scary, but then I just remembered, pigs are just bacon. Bacon can't hurt you. So as I was exploring the woods, I eventually found a way into Yosefka Clinic, I believe it is. And this place threw me off so much because I was like, all right, first we're in the woods. Now we're back into the place that feels very similar to the beginning of the game. I didn't realize it actually was the beginning of the game until I made it to the lantern. I made it to a room and there was a lady with a very nice voice who was saying, "Don't come here." And I was like, I have never felt so confident in listening to the words of a game. I think she said, "Don't come here." Because I remember it was very clear that it wasn't, should I listen to her, should I not? I'm just like, okay, I'm going to get out of here. When a lady with a voice like that in a game like this says, "Don't come here," I'm not going to come here. And I left, and the chat kind of sighed in relief, which is also weird. It's either really bad or really good what was up there. And then there was like these weird like squishy sounds on the table being operated on. I'm not sure what they were. I killed one, which apparently was a friend. I didn't know he was a friend until I killed him. And the chat went crazy. And they're like, "Why did you kill Squishy?" So I'm sorry, I killed Squishy. I'm not sure if he was an NPC or not. I tend to hit first and ask questions later. If I see the HP doesn't go down fast enough, then I step back and I go, "Wait, are you an NPC?" But Squishy went down pretty quick, so I don't think it was that relevant. Anyways, so we unlocked that clinic, and the key takeaway is I now have 2 places to send people. So the clinic, because I left, I came back, and now the doors were closed, so I couldn't get back in the clinic. But the lady was still there, and she's like, "Send me the sick." So I'm like, all right. The crazy sick people go to the clinic, and the nice friendly people who sell their flesh, they go to the church. And later on, I actually met a sick dude in the forest who was eating a human. And I'm like, "You're not coming to my church, but you can go to the clinic with the nice lady. Maybe she'll help you out." But before we left the woods, I made it to my first and only boss of the week. If we don't count the chalices, which was the Shadow of Yharnam. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Maybe the bosses get better. And on first impression, I was like, okay, this is bullshit. Because first of all, there's 3 of them. So I'm like, okay, this is unfair. But there was 2 melee and a range. And I was like, we've done this before. We in fact fought a boss last week, which was 3 of them, 2 melees and a range. So I'm like, first we got to knock out the range dude. I did that, but I did it wrong. And I jumped and he fireballed me. And then his friend fire flamed me. And my health just went nope. So I was focusing on the range fighter, which was a mistake. Because when you go into half of its health, they all like break out into snakes. And there's one dude who has like a really long snake. So I was like, how the heck? Because then you're trying to fight the other 2 guys and he's just like snake hands. And he's literally snake handing in your face anywhere you go. So we're like, all right, new strategy. Maybe the range guy's not so bad. Let's kill snake hands. So I killed him first, leaving me with the range dude and a melee dude. And then it was so easy. I just had to keep the melee dude busy so I could get to the range dude, kill him a few times, and then eventually it was just one-on-one with a melee dude, and he went down pretty fast. Honestly, I like this boss. Good design, good challenge, because at first I was like, oh, how? And this is a common theme with Soulsborne bosses. My first impression is, oh my God, how am I going to how am I going to overcome this? This is so unfair. And then within 2-3 tries, you get your confidence, you get the clicks, and you're like, oh, this is how you do it. And boom, boom, boom. And it's when the boom, boom, boom happens, it is such a triumphant feeling. And I got that with this boss, and I liked it. So we moved on. We've just had some exploration. We've just had some good boss fights, some good grinding. The smile is big on my face. I'm like, all right, we're back into Bloodborne. And so from there, I got into Bergenworth, and man, my smile has melted off my face so fast because these next 2 areas are of the heavy bullshit type. And I am not looking forward to this next week's streams because I have only 2 areas to go. Both areas are disgustingly hard. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? So first, Bergenworth has a bunch of disgusting bugs that I don't know how to parry and I don't know how to deal with. Literally, so many things suck on you in this part. It's disgusting. They run from across the room. They jump on you. They suck on you. They give you the frenzy. There's a thing that has like a leech face. It's got like a noodle on the head. Oh my God, that is the creepiest thing ever. It like summons things so you can't move, and then it's all like blah, 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 and it just tentacles into your face and like sucks your insight and your health, and it is traumatic. I hate it. I hate it so much. And then there's a big centipede in this level with a lot of arms, and it is disgusting too. But the thing that killed me here was the freaking hunter that looks like a human. It's not even the disgusting thing, and it just like one-shot me, and I'm just like, oh, this place sucks hard. Wow, I can't believe I made that joke. But anyways, so I make my way to where they told me the buggy is. Beautiful buggy, beautiful cinematic, beautiful castle, beautiful snow. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. It's like Castlevania. Everyone's like, oh, it's Castlevania. I'm like, yeah, it does look like Castlevania. And so I come across the first monster here. I'm like, I am so down to exploring a castle. First monster destroys me. I was like, okay, it's not gonna be that fun. But it's near a save point, so I'm like, it's not so bad, I can practice. I try to practice on the closest dude to see what it's like, and it takes like 20 hits to kill. I'm like, oh, am I under leveled? What's going on here? This doesn't feel right. So I'm like, maybe we don't have to fight these guys. So I run into the castle, only to find it is filled with ghosts everywhere. There's literally 5 to 10 ghosts spawning around you, and I like tried to kill a few, and they take more hits than they should, I feel. Like when it's more than 5 hits per spawn and they're spawning in that amount of quantities, I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna be a fun time. So I tried to run around the castle and just try to like make my way and see what the goal of being here was and if I could find anything cool. And I pretty much died. I died to some gargoyles, and it's like the gargoyles were fairly fair to fight. It was kind of one-on-one and they were okay. But the fact that I had to run through so many enemies just to get there tells me I might not be at the right level, or something needs to happen before I do this. So I think when I go back, I'm going to take my chances with the bugs again, because at least I was able to kill them and progress and explore. And I just opened a shortcut. So I think I just have to deal with this hunter who's a bit of a wall, and then maybe I'll find more stuff to do there. And I know that Kinehurst is a optional area. So Maybe we'll come back to that later. Right now I'm at about level 50, and some people are saying that seems fair, but we'll come back to it. And finally, I ended the stream with some advice. So one of the complaints I had in my last video was I did not like the grind for the blood vials, and I explained how grinding for blood vials was BS. So people shared with me that there's a bit of a glitch in the game that you can use to eliminate farming. And I can't really say this word out loud in the whole thing, but it's the CUMM chalice dungeon. So you enter that code, CUMM and a few numbers, and it gives you a dungeon that you just basically walk into it and you get 80,000 whatever soul equivalent.
What?
And when I got that, I was holding on to all of this like currency, and I'm just like, I could get so many levels out of this. And the chat's like, so now you redeem it for blood vials. And I was like, yes, blood vials, but I could get so many levels and I could get through the game so much easier. And they're like, and I'm like, no, I'll put it all into blood vials. Can't use these souls for leveling. That would be unfair and break the game. But oh man, was it tempting. It's like being seduced by the dark side. So now I have like 200 blood vials from that, and I don't ever need to use that chalice again. Theoretically, I should be good for a while. But if anyone out there is stuck somewhere and they want some easy levels, look up the CUMM chalice trick, and you can pretty much max out your levels within minutes. And maybe we'll do that if there's a very, very bullshitty final boss waiting for me somewhere, and we'll just, ramp up the levels and then fight it. So it's good to know that we have that there as a just in case. Only break in extreme emergencies. So it's good to know that exists. Anyways, then I also had to do a few chalices before that. So I went back to the old one. I killed the Watchers, and I finished my first dungeon. So the last boss there was the Watchdog of the Old Land. Fierce, intimidating, but good fight. I have no complaints on that one. It was a good fight. Not very memorable, not very special. He was a big dog on fire, but I enjoyed the fight. Overall, though, I enjoyed the Shadow of the Yarnum fight more. So now we are at 15 bosses left until the pledge is complete. Still a lot of fights to do, and I'm surprised there's this many bosses left considering I'm at level 50. I feel I should have encountered more. And it looks like we just got some BS areas ahead of us. So who knows what's next, but join me as we find out on the next stream or the next journal. I'll see you then, and until next time, keep it classy. I am now halfway through my Bloodborne pledge, and I'm really wondering what I do to myself, because this game just keeps getting weirder, creepier, more tentacles. No! Oh, the teeth! Oh, the teeth and the eyes. Welcome back, Classic Crew, to HJ's Folly, where I pledge to fight and defeat every boss in Bloodborne for some strange reason. Careful what you commit to. You think you're having fun for a few hours and something, then you're like, oh, I'm just going to do the whole thing. Well, the whole thing might be very different than the initial thing. All that to say, I have now 12 bosses left to hunt down in my pledge. Bloodborne is getting super freak, and it's just getting weirder and weirder. But with all this past week was very painful. Let's just say that I'm getting some scarring from this game. It's getting weirder. It's getting harder. And I have to say though, I'm quite proud of the progress. In hindsight, like in the moment, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing to myself? This is rough. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh, I did quite a bit. I'm progressing quite a bit through this nightmarish experience. So, I've learned from all of you that the weapons in Bloodborne have different efficiencies against different monsters, which is not something I knew. And when I came to the stream, I pointed that out, and people were like, yeah, you got to read the description of your items. I was like, what do you mean? So I read it, the cleaver saw thing, and it's like the flavor text mentions that this weapon likes the blood of beasts. I'm like, I'm supposed to read that and understand that it means use this weapon against beasts? That is some bullshittery right there, because I would have never have put that together if you didn't tell me. So now I know that different weapons have different efficiencies. So I've tried a new weapon. I tried the threaded cane because I was very curious, because I saw that it was like a whip. I like it, but I don't love it, so I'm not going to be using it. And I can only like level so many weapons. So instead, I leveled up Ludwig's Holy Blade. I finally leveled up enough to unlock it. It's at level 7 now, and it's replaced the hammer in my arsenal because it's quite versatile. You get the big like swings of a great sword for big damage and big swings, but when needed, you can go to little sword and go wacha wacha. So you get the best of both worlds, and it does some good damage. I don't think it's as cool because it's just a sword. Like, it's not as cool as a switching weapon or like a switch saw or whatever, but you gotta play with what the game gives you that makes more damage. And right now, that is Ludwig's Holy Blade. So I'm gonna be using that along with the switch saw because switch saw is my first baby in this game. So last time I left off with Cainhurst Castle being a complete bullshit fest. So I went back to Bergenworth, slapped that hunter around. I think it only took me 2 tries, and then more I could unlock a little bit more. So I explored the little mansion. It was actually quite a short area. Jumped into a lake to find my first boss of the night, which was Rom, the vacuous spider. It was disgusting. Its face has too many holes for a spider, and then there's a bunch of little spiders with, again, too many holes on their face. So my first instinct as a hunter is I started smacking the face, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't doing anything to the health. Whereas when I was slashing the body, the health bar was going down quite rapidly. So I quickly learned, don't hit the face of the spider, hit the body. And then the next thing I learned is don't bother killing the little spiders because, so I was going after the mama spider, and then after a while she teleports and summons more baby spiders, and then I'm like, okay, this is getting crazy. There's a sea of little spiders. I'm trying to hit mama spider, and now she's throwing magic energy at me. I'm like, this is too much. So I thought maybe we got to go in and kill the little spiders. So I pulled out my hammer, whacked them around, and then I died to the mama spider. I was like, okay, this took far too long to kill all the little spiders. I'm not going to keep trying over and over again to clear out the mobs just to get a run at the big mama. I don't have that kind of patience. So I just, weaved slash on big mama, kept going, pivot, come back, slash, and I just kind of did these like zigzag runs to go through the mob. It reminded me a little bit of the priest boss. I forget their names, but the crowd of priests that you go through in Dark Souls 3, it was a very similar vibe to that, just less satisfying because as you're slashing through, you're not killing a bunch of the little spiders. They require a few more hits. So Rom died, and then things got weird. Like, the weirdest FromSoft has ever been for me. So stuff happened. A baby started crying forever at this point. There's always a baby crying. I was teleported to a place where there's the big dude with the tentacles for the face looking at me, and I can actually see him now versus this is the guy that groped me before, but he was kind of invisible. Now I could totally see him. So I ran past him and people were like, no, let him touch you. And I was like, that sounds like really bad advice. And Troll has led me astray many times. I'm like, I don't think I should let the big tentacle monster touch me. And they said, no, we promise, we swear, it's good this time. And I had zero confidence in chat. I just want to be clear. But I'm like, you know what? If it's trolly, we'll do it for the laughs. And if they're honest, maybe something will happen. So I went back, I let the big tentacle man touch me, and I was sent off to the lecture building in near Nightmare Frontier. So this is actually kind of nice that chat sent me to an optional area. The lecture building was quite nice. I actually liked the aesthetics. I liked the monsters in there. It was very cool to explore that thing. I felt comfortable in that area. And all of that went away when we went into the Nightmare Frontiers, where all sorts of ghoulies exist, including, I don't know their name, but they're basically brains that sing, which is now my ultimate worst enemy of the entirety of all video games. This thing sucks so much. Like, it is, I have no words to describe how bad it is. So as soon as it sees you, you get pierced by like these red arrows that deal you damage, and then it starts singing its song, I think, and then you die. You just die. So as soon as you see it, you have to kill it before it sees you. But even if it dies, it can still kill you from the frenzy, and it's just like, it knocks you out fast. It doesn't even have to touch you. That's the thing. It doesn't even have to touch you. It just has to look at you, and it's like, la, 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 and then you die. It's such a dumb mechanic. I hate it. Also in Nightmare Frontier, we met a fellow spider that pushed me over very Patch-like, and I think it was Patch's voice from Dark Souls. I was like, oh, is this like a gimmick in all FromSoft games now? There's at every point in a FromSoft game, you're just gonna get pushed off a cliff by someone or something that laughs at you, because honestly, it's kind of charming, and I'm okay with it at this point. It's the third time I got kicked off a cliff by a rando who laughs at me, and I'm like, at this point, that's the least of the bad things that happen in these games. There's also poison swamps. So literally Nightmare Frontier is the stuff of Nightmare. It's all it's all bad stuff. But I made it through, and I made it to the amygdala, which is again this big thing with tentacles. I have some major issues with this because my first instinct, big monster, love it, got close, and the camera's like it's dancing to disco back there. I don't know what the camera's doing, but it's not looking at me and it's not looking at the monster. It's like going or something. So I should never make those sounds. I absolutely hate that the game does not encourage you to get close to big monsters because the camera goes wonky. The game expects you to stand away from the monster so the camera can see the whole monster. And that's when things are okay, but then like with this monster, you have to basically watch it. Its head comes down and then you smash the head. That's the mechanic. But it's very counterintuitive to how I play, where it's like, I want to go and smack on the limbs. I want to be close to it. And as soon as you get close, the game punishes you for it. So that's just an issue I feel has been consistent in this game, where the bigger the monster, the worse the camera, unless you play a very specific way. And that's just not cool. Let me play the way I want to. So amygdala was dead. We went back into the world of not optional. And I noticed that when I tried to teleport back to the church where, what's her name? I know it's the toilet paper girl. I couldn't teleport there. Some strange force blocked it. So I went to the church before it and ran there to see what was going on. And one of my NPCs was pretty badly hurt on the outside, the one that I've been following her quest line. So she's like, oh, my final prey is in there. Don't worry, I'll take care of him. And she's like bleeding out. I'm like, okay, let's go see what's in here. And in there I found an NPC that just wiped the floor with me in literally one shot. He would shoot me and all my health was gone. Not so frustrating because I kept going back. I was like, there's got to be a way to do this. It comes down to the parrying. In my best run against them, I got him in half health. Honestly, it's the type of boss I am okay going up against over and over. I don't know if it's actually a boss though. I think it's just an optional NPC. I tried 5-6 times against him and always got about half of his health. And I'm just like, okay, this will probably be more manageable once I'm a little bit more leveled up. Right now, I'm in my early level 50s at this point. And I'm like, I don't want to commit too much of the stream just to fight this thing at this point. So I kept going with the path of the story, made it to Yahargul, the unseen village. And this place is a whole new level of bullshittery in these universes. I can't believe there's designers out there that intentionally do this to players. So this place is filled with little maidens with bells who ring the bells and summon constant enemies you've killed before. So first of all, you have to get through mobs to kill the maiden. And after that, there's what are they called? The amygdala dudes. Some of them are harmless. Some of them shoot lasers at you. And then there's these other screaming things that also respawn infinitely that don't require the maiden of the bell. And this place was just punish. I was getting slapped around everywhere. I was really not having a good time. And I don't know how I made it through. That is just pure perseverance. I don't know. At one point my brain shut off and it's just stop trying to skill your way through this. Just run. When all else fails, just run. And I ran while exploring, while dodging. Eventually made my way through all of that. And that just took me to the bagman's place where they imprison you. I ended up back there and everything's more buffed and there's creepy coffins out in the street and everything hurts so much. I'm just like, this is so ridiculous how much everything hurts and how creepy everything is, and the moon is red and there's tentacle faces everywhere, and I'm just scratching the skin off my face of where am I? What am I doing with my life? Anyways, all this led to the third boss of the night. I think, did I talk about the third boss, the one reborn, which was a disgusting mess of a boss. Again, a big boss where I'm like, what the heck am I looking at here? Where's the face? There's 5 faces. Where's the front? There's 2 fronts. Where's the back? They're touching each other. I'm just, like, who designed all these bosses to be so cryptic to even look at? I can't conceptualize what I'm looking at. I'm trying to hit this thing on the front, it's the face, and then there's something kicking me, and then I go to the right and there's something still kicking me. There's literally like 6 feet around this thing kicking me in every direction. Fireballs coming from the sky. Human vomit with human pieces falling from the sky. It was a mess. And the first thing was like, okay, where are these fireballs? I realized that there are people upstairs. So I found some stairs, cleared out all the maidens who were laughing at me and throwing fireballs. So once we got that out of the way, then it was just me and the one reborn. I was like, all right, let's see what you do. Okay, you got a face here, you got a face here, and you got a big pile of flesh here. So I'm going to attack your big pile of flesh. And then I eventually learned one side vomits poison and the other side summons these things above your head. So you have to be constantly moving. You go in, you mash. When there's vomit on the floor, you step back, you keep dodging the stuff falling above, you mash. And honestly, once I understood that, it was okay. This boss was okay. I actually quite enjoyed this boss. This one, and I don't think I talked about Rom the Vacuous Spider in terms of if I enjoyed it or not. That one I enjoyed it too. I was not frustrated with it. Really, Amygdala was the only one that I was frustrated with, and it was more because of the camera than the boss itself. So in terms of boss quality, I complained about this earlier. We're getting better, but it's at the cost of the game getting way weirder and way harder. So maybe I'll take my like lame, non-memorable bosses instead. So after that, I did find a key in that whole area, which opens the upper cathedral, which is another optional area. In fact, I don't even know where I'm supposed to go after the one reborn. I'm so lost once again. I keep going into all these optional areas and I don't know where to go. So I ended the stream. I'm at level 58. I have 40 insights. I'm learning that insights is making my life harder, but I'm a hoarder that doesn't want to get rid of my insight because I don't actually know what it means to have insight and to lose insight. I just know having insight reveals more creepy stuff. There's creepy stuff everywhere, and I'm just going to roll with it. I'm just going to keep going. I made it up to the upper cathedral. I was kind of exploring comfortably. I was actually into it. I lost track of time again, which is a good thing. And I was like, oh, I got to get to bed. So I went back to the lantern. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the upper cathedral has to offer. It's creepy. The boss, like the enemies are tough, but I can manage them. And there's probably a boss in here. I think this is an optional area. So that takes us to like 3 optional areas I've been at now. The Canehurst Castle, which I have to go back to eventually. The Nightmare Frontier, which I'm done with. And now we've got the upper cathedral / the choir. I think those are 3. And I may have done other optional areas. It's all starting to blend together. But once I finish the upper cathedral, I really don't know where to go after this. I don't know what the game wants from me. There's a baby crying. I guess I got to go kill a baby. Why? I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm just wandering this nightmare that's just getting more weird. And hopefully we wake up at the end and it's all Solaire's, I don't know, happy dream, because that's what he was seeing when he was possessed by the brain thing. So I'll see you in the next journal or the next stream. 12 bosses remain. That's a lot of bosses. I can't imagine that there's still 12 bosses left in this game, considering I'm at almost level 60. But we got to plow through because we said we would. So I'll see you on the stream, on the next journal. And until next time, keep it classy. Last week I left off, I didn't know where to go in Bloodborne. The good news is I found 3 paths to go. The bad news is I found 3 new walls in the form of bosses. Just wall. Welcome back, classy crew, to a new Bloodborne journal where I am now down to 11 bosses remaining on my hunt list, 3 of which I have seen, confronted, and lost to. So I only need to discover, what is 11? 8? I need to discover, there are 8 unknown bosses to me out there. So last time I had just killed the big pile of flesh that I don't really remember what its name is. So anyways, I had left that and I didn't realize that I could have kept going up some stairs and seeing that there was a key thing that you could interact with there. So when I started this one, I was like, okay, where do I go? I can go to Canehurst Castle, which I'm still scarred from that. I didn't want to go there. I can go back to the Upper Cathedral, which that place was kind of the most appealing to me. It was a little bit spooky, but nothing too crazy. But anyways, I remember that I had sent a dude to the oh boy, I don't know how to pronounce this, Iosefka Clinic. So I was like, what happened to that guy? I was curious. I went back to go see him, and he got transformed into a little jelly man. So I've now learned that clinic transforms certain people into Jellyman for whatever reason. So I killed him and ended his suffering. While I kept exploring, there was a lady on a table and she looked like she was suffering, so I killed her too. And she gifted me in return with her corpse an umbilical cord. Now, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but it's a third of an umbilical cord. Apparently, I need to collect 3 of these and something good will happen. I've never had to say that at any point in my life up to this day, but hey, here we are playing Bloodborne, and umbilical cords is what makes good things happen. Actually, I don't even know if it's a good thing. It probably just unlocks something completely bullshittery. So I went back to the boss that I killed last time, which was like the one reborn. I think that's what it was called. I forget his name. And up the stairs, I touched a mummy, which took me back to the lecture building, but this time on the 2nd floor. So I had gone into the 1st floor last time. So I was pleasantly surprised to find that, oh, this is how you get to the 2nd floor. It all intersects. The story takes you to this area that I thought was optional. So I got to explore that. It was pretty comfortable. We got some slimy like students who are half water or something. Killed everybody in there. It was quite comfortable. And then I wandered out into this thing called the Nightmare of Mensis. And I walked into view of a castle that like it looks like they were dropping some beats over there, and those beats were killing me just listening to them. Literally, you are outside the castle, and all of a sudden you just start dying when this light goes on. So I was like, I'm going to nope out of this, and let's go back to the Upper Cathedral, which seemed like a much nicer place to go. Now, around this point, I have made a massive discovery for myself in my Bloodborne playthrough, and I'm sure a lot of you probably know this if you played the game, but I did not realize the importance of elemental power in your weapon. So some of you have been commenting over the weeks that my level doesn't mean anything, and I am appreciating that so much more now that your weapon, upgrading it, leveling up your weapon probably leads to more stats. But then the gems, I think the blood gems, adds even more stats to that. So before I went back to the Upper Cathedral, I was like, all right, let's go make sure my weapon is up to code and as maxed out as I could. And I dropped some gems in there, and I didn't realize I dropped in a lightning gem on my saw blade. And that, of course, nullified all my physical damage, but it gave me some elemental damage, which is something I haven't played with so far. And as I went into Upper Cathedral, I started slashing some things. You know those guys that love to suck my face? Those dudes go down in like 2 hits, and my mind was blown. I'm like, usually I have to do like 8 to 10 hits on these things. All I got to do is put some lightning on my blade, and they die like that. So I was like, oh, this is big. Now, some people in chat were complaining that I was not optimal, and that's fair. I'm never optimal, but they were pointing out the fact that I no longer had physical damage because my configuration sent all of my, it's kind of an all or nothing. You either get all raw damage or all elemental damage in the setup. I was like, that's fine. I'm like, the fact that I'm killing things so fast, I don't care if it's not optimal. This is optimal. Like for me, it's allowing me to progress comfortably. And so I started, carrying, so some people were saying I should be using the item to either add fire or lightning. I personally don't like that playstyle. I don't like having to carry consumables that I can only use for 90 seconds. It gives me anxiety, and I'm the type of person that will keep them on me and never really understand when I need to use them, because I'm like, maybe I need to hold on to this for a later time. And then the credits scroll and you're like, oh, I guess I should have used that at one point. So that's why I'd rather have my weapon have like tuned up elements instead of me applying the item. Now I am using the item to test things. So I think it was last week I learned that the different weapons have different effects. So you have like blunt damage, thrust damage, I think. All these, there's different weapons that are effective against different creatures. So I learned that. Now on top of that, I'm learning that elements have a big difference. So I think beasts are weak to fire, the jellyman are definitely weak to lightning, and the face suckers are also weak to lightning. So now I carry 2 weapons, and I try to keep either the items to test, and when I come across a new enemy, the first thing I'm like, all right, what are you weak to? And I just try like all my combinations. Same for the bosses now. I go to the bosses, I try everything before I start committing to learning their patterns so I can better understand what makes the most damage to them. So that was a huge game changer, and I honestly really regret I didn't understand this earlier, because I think I would have leaned a lot more into the arcane build of this game, knowing what I know now. So I think this is why people replay these games, and probably why they can appreciate them. You can appreciate these games, I think, more on playthroughs, on secondary playthroughs, because you just keep learning so many things late in the game that when you have that knowledge at the beginning of the game, it's an entire different experience. So huge breakthroughs, because, so yeah, I went through Upper Cathedral. At first I had a lot of difficulties because for whatever reason, it was the beast. I was having a lot of troubles with beasts, and I had not understood the whole elemental thing. So once I got that, I got through that bottleneck, made it to the first boss of the night, which was the Celestial Emissary, probably one of the easiest bosses in the game. And it was nice to have a pleasant fight for once. He killed me once. I forgot what happened. And actually the second time, I killed him and he killed me, but they gave me the victory. Like, we died at the same time, but I died just late enough to still count. So, decent fight. You know, it's all about kind of mob control, and the fact that I had my saw with the lightning, I could clear out everything in 1 or 2 hits. So it went pretty smooth. I found a secret door after that took me to Abritas, daughter of Cosmos, or Abriatas. I don't know what her name is. She's gross and she hits hard, and I don't do a lot of damage on her. So I'm like, I tried a few times. I was like, all right, I'm going to come back to you. Especially since chat was all going like, oh, he's taking her on now. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to come back when I have grinded out a little bit more things to allow me to do more damage. Because I couldn't play with her very much. She kept knocking me out in 2 hits. So we'll come back to this, but I'm not deterred from the fight. Like, it wasn't overwhelming bullshit that I'm just like, oh, I don't like this. It wasn't like the lightning creature that I didn't like. Very different with Abriatus, because I wasn't dying instantly. I was able to kind of dodge. It's just I need more practice and more understanding of what she does. So from there, I took my new lightning found knowledge. I was like, wait a minute, what if we apply all this new knowledge to Canehurst? So I was like, ghosts are probably weak to electric. Oh, they are weak to electric. I cleaned that entire castle. We ghostbustered the heck out of that castle, took everything out, pillaged all of their chests, and I had a great time. I found a nice dress. I fought around with the dress. But ultimately it wasn't my color, so I went back. I found some better like night stuff, so I replaced the dress with that. Made my way to the top of the castle to Martyr Logarius, which is the boss of that area. So I've explored that whole zone. That boss, I got him in half health. He is tough. And I was not discouraged. I was actually willing to fight him because I was actually starting to learn how to dodge through his attacks, how you have to go in, smack, and then he has like a very close proximity attack that you have to like step back to dodge, and then you get back in, and then if he does like a big whoop, you have to shoot him. So I got through his first phase pretty comfortably once I figured it out. And then phase 2, he unlocked like some massive bullshittery, which I was like, okay, I have to learn how to do this. But then I put it up to a vote. I'm like, this could probably take me an hour or 2 to get through. So does chat want me to do this, or should we go explore? Because I was open to both, and chat voted go explore. So I went back to the Nightmare of Mensis. So now we have 2 bosses on the backlog, and I explored this area, and it was terrible. It was a terrible place. The boom boom hurt wasn't so bad, like the thing where like when the lights are on you get damage. I realized once you know the path and how to get through it, it's just a matter of don't even bother with it. Just book it, run through, you're fine. The real problem of this whole area was the room of spiders. So last week I talked about Rom the spider, and I thought this was the creepy thing of the game because everybody's like, oh, Bloodborne has spiders, can't wait till he gets there. So I'm like, oh, Rom wasn't that bad. Like, it had a gross phase, but it wasn't that bad. I wasn't really disgusted by it that much. These spiders, you walk into the room and there is a big, like realistic, fat mother of a spider hanging there with all the babies. And you just know stuff's gonna go down when you walk into that room. And they move realistically, they are big, and they look creepy, and these ones actually disgusted me. There's a part where I knew that it would trigger like them descending. I just booked it, and I like didn't even want to look. The whole thing was disgusting. I tried to like fight them, so once I fell into the room, they all descended. I was like, nope, not fighting this. I just ran out the door where I could like bottleneck them and just slash away at the doorway. But man, there's so many, they just overwhelmed me. So I was like, all right, screw this. We're just gonna book it. We booked it. And then there was a hunter waiting for me, and he hits hard, and all the spiders were coming. I was like, nope, screw this. We're gonna go past him. And ultimately, I just ran through that entire zone because that was a heavy nope zone. And it took me a few tries to get through that while running because I was dying to everything else in that area. So finally made it to my lantern, which took me close to the next boss, which was a Mikołaś, host of the nightmares. And out of all the bosses I've fought, I have to say this is probably the one I disliked the most that night. So I had encountered 4 bosses, 2 of which I didn't defeat. It was Celestial Emissary. Mikołaś is just annoying. He laughs at you. He's constantly running away from you, which is right there. That's a combo for like instant annoyance. And when you actually figure out what you have to do, it's just a pain because then you have to chase him. So he goes into the room, and then you have to like, you have to kill him in there just so he runs to another zone. It's the boxing area I don't like. So I made it to the second part. So he's at half health, made it into the box with him. And then he pulls off like, I think I've seen this spell before where they just like, oh, lights of heaven. And it's just, you're dead. It's the most bullshit move. I don't understand why it exists. Or I don't understand why it does so much damage. Literally, I think I had most of my health, and I'm just in there. I was feeling good. I'm like, all right, we're gonna kill this boss. And he's just like, boom, and I'm dead. And I was like, oh, I have to go through all of this again. And that's pretty much where I left it. I tried a few times. I didn't make it back to that level. So the next stream, I don't have much left to explore because Canehurst is done. I just have to finish the boss there. Upper Cathedral is done. I just have to finish the boss there. And then story-wise, I have to get through Mikołaś to progress. Luckily, he's probably the easiest of the 3 bosses, but man, he's annoying. Oh, I can't wait till he's dead. So after that, yeah, we'll finish Mikołaś. I hear I'm getting close to the end of the story. I don't know if I can actually get that done in the next stream. Gonna try. And I learned that through my folly of not understanding what I'm pledging, I accidentally pledged the DLC because 22 bosses includes the DLC. So I'm gonna have to get it, and we're gonna have to go through those bosses too. And I hear they are both fantastic and absolutely horrendous in terms of difficulty. So we'll see what happens there. But now that I'm getting more knowledgeable, understanding and appreciating my stats more, maybe we'll keep making breakthroughs and finding ways to get through these nightmares. So I'll see you on the next stream or the next journal. And until next time, keep it classy. If you're a regular here, you'll be familiar with the patented Hey J invasion sensation, which made its debut in Monster Hunter World. Well, I haven't had the chance to pull it off in a while until this past week in Bloodborne, and I wasn't ready. Get ready for the Hey J invasion sensation. Oh, okay, that's what it was supposed to. Welcome back, Classic Crew, to another Bloodborne journal as I venture through Bloodborne trying to kill all 22 bosses, and as I have learned, that includes the DLC bosses, much to my misfortune. Last time when I left you, there were 11 bosses remaining. Today, there are 9 left. We are getting closer. We're down to the single digits. I have unlocked the DLC, but first, let me tell you about this boy Mikołaś and how we have granted him his death instead of his eyes. Or did we grant him his eyes? Because I think we woke him up.
Wake up.
So last time I left you on a note of Mikołaś being a big bullshit. And I have to say, if there's one thing I'm seeing consistent with From Software game, and I have to give them props to it, they somehow nail the feeling of the first time you meet a boss, or at least the first time I meet a boss, I am overwhelmed. I'm just like, how am I ever going to kill this? It is overwhelmingly impossible. This thing is disgustingly hard. How am I going to beat it? Only to learn in about 3 to 4 other fights that there is a fairly simple way to kill the boss. And once you put it all together, it's quite easy. And I've had this happen in Dark Souls, in Dark Souls 3, in Bloodborne, and still to this day, when I come into a boss, I'm just like, there's no way I'm gonna do this. Like, I still don't have the confidence. It's very different than Monster Hunter, where I keep encountering walls, but my confidence grows. Here, I'm just constantly not confident, and I'm just like, there's no way. This is so dumb. And then you find a way. So in the case of Mikolash, last time I shared how you chase him, and by the last phase, he unleashes these missiles which just destroy you. Like, all my life gone. Well, I found how to deal with that. And so going through the first phase, he's super easy. First phase, the first half of his health, you kill the 2 skeletons, and then all he's got is pretty much his tentacle arms. So all you do is dodge, stab, stab. And it's so rhythmic, it's honestly kind of boring how easy he is. And then he runs away, and you have to chase him, and then I learned the path. So it was super easy. I'm just like, dodge, stab, stab. Now this time he punches you sometimes.
Oh, he punches.
But once I realized his punches do no damage, I'm like, phew.
Dodge, stab, stab.
And so the dance got a little bit more complicated, but it wasn't anything too scary. And if he managed to run away far and started like chanting and casting the thing, I just shot him. Shooting interrupts him. And so I'm like, oh, with all these tools in mind, you put it together,
Dodge, stab, stab.
boom, he's dead. And so Mikolash fell. After that, I kept exploring the rest of this castle thing. After Mikolash, I wanted to go, so someone recommended that I could get these like claws from a chalice dungeon, and apparently they're very good dexterity weapons. And I'm like, oh, cool, I want to try that. And so the chat's trying to guide me how to do that. And I didn't have the chalice, I didn't have like this ritual items for the particular chalice, and they're like, oh, you need another chalice. And then I learned I needed other materials for that chalice. And basically I learned the whole chalice system is basically like you got baby chalice that you have to complete that gets you everything you need to eventually get the medium chalice. And then once you do that, then you can get access to the large chalice. And so I've learned that there's this path of chalices, which is kind of almost like an alternate game that I could play if I wanted to, and I'm a little bit curious to do it, but I'm also a little bit not. And so I went back to the castle, started exploring, found a pig, put my fist in him, kept exploring, found the night watchers, the Nazguls, whatever they were. Basically, they were the bosses in the forest. Now there's a bunch of them around here, and I have to fight them as common enemies. And for the most part, I did okay. Kept exploring, found some singers, the stupid brain things. I was like, oh no, I don't want to do this. But chat was like, you got to go through here. You're going to get so many good things, and you're going to be able to turn off the light. And I was like, oh man, but the brains. And so we had a little 101 crash course on strength weapons, and I have learned maybe the folly of my way. So Dark Souls 1, I shared how I didn't like it really. And I also went with a strength build in that one. Dark Souls 3, I shared how I did like it. And I went with a dexterity build in that game. And for some reason in Bloodborne, in my first stream, I don't know, some chat was telling me that dexterity was not a viable build or something. And I chose to believe them for some reason. That also with the fact that I really love the switch saw, and people were telling me it was better to use strength on that. So anyways, I went with the strength build. And so I've learned I don't like strength builds, and I think that really sours my experience of these games. And if I would just go with the builds that I like, I would probably enjoy these more. So anyways, here we are with the strength build, and it's kind of a lot of work to pivot out of it. So I figured, let's make the best of it. And people are like, why aren't you using your strength weapons best abilities, which is you hold R2 to do max damage? And I was like, I don't like charging up attacks. It's very against my playstyle. Like, even if you look at my Monster Hunter playstyle, I'm more about whack, whack, move than stand in my place, charge, and then unleash a lot of damage, which is really strength builds like ultimate way to play. And so I got comfortable with the idea of, you know what, just wait for a good opening, charge, smack, smack. Like you can do 2 big smacks. And I got it off on a few creatures, including the brain things. And I understood, oh, I'm not playing strength builds correctly, but also I'm like, I don't want to play the game like this either. So now I'm starting to get into that Soulsborne mindset of what would it be like if I replayed this with this different build? And I'm starting to appreciate the design of this game, where they give you a game and they say, taste it, do what you want with it. And then when you get to the end of it, they make you wonder what it's like to go through it with a different, a different build and stuff. And now I'm starting to get that like little itch of what would it be with an arcane build? What would it be with a dexterity build? How different would it be? So anyways, learn how to do that. which let me deal with some enemies in a little bit easier fashion. Found a big brain. I think this is the one that was causing light everywhere. And I broke the chains and I sent it down into the pit. It was so satisfying. I think I killed it. I'm pretty sure I killed it. It screamed on the way down. It was very satisfying. And then we went up to the next boss, which was Murgo's Wet Nurse. And I have to say, I don't like the word wet nurse, and I understand that it is a common term in society, that a wet nurse is a nurse that takes care of a baby, as far as I know. But why a wet nurse? Why don't we just call it a baby nurse? Or an infant nurse or a toddler nurse? Why's it got to be a wet nurse? Because a wet nurse suggests that there's such thing as a dry nurse. So anyways, the wet nurse was one of those bosses that I'm like, what the heck? So I approached it slowly and I'm like, okay, this thing's a lawnmower. It's slice and dice. I stay away, I get close, and for the most part, I wasn't on top of this fight until it divided into 3-4 of itself, and I'm just like, what? Off camera, slice, and I'm dead. I was like, oh, how am I gonna fight this? This is impossible. It comes at me from every direction. Once again, confidence down into the ground. And then someone's like, just don't lock onto it, run around. I was like, okay. So I went back at it, and I learned that it had kind of this like weak spot in the back near the butt, and I was like, all right, we gotta go and do the butt strategy. And so I got hit a few times, but when you were back there, it doesn't hurt nearly as much as when you get hit from the front. And so was able to deplete its health by being a little bit more aggressive, much faster, and just staying in its back. And then when it started summoning its goons, I just ran around until the time expired on the goons, and then I went back at it. And I was like, bish bosh boom, no problem, it dies. So we were done, and I was about to leave. Actually, I did leave, and I saw that my hub house is on fire, to which people screamed, stop, don't talk to anybody, now's the time to do the DLC. Or I go into endgame and like credits roll, and I go straight into New Game Plus. I was like, all right. So they said, go back to the castle thing. They sent me down under the castle into the absolute abyss where there is nothing. They're like, turn on a torch. And I was like, what the heck's down here? I was so scared. It was pitch black. I'm walking around. I can't see anything. Even with a torch, I still can't see anything. And then out of nowhere, tentacle. Just, like, what is this? And then you follow the tentacle and then eyeball. And I'm like, and then more eyeballs. And I'm just like, what the heck am I looking at? And then I did one of these at it. And then I waited and it went like this. And then I got a moon rune. And that was it. I didn't dare to attack it because I don't want to fight that thing. So I ran away with my moon rune, and I'm like, I guess we're friends now. So with that said, booked it out of there, went back to the manor, and off I went to the DLC because I think there's 5 or 6 bosses in there waiting for me to check it out. So I still have 2 bosses in the base game that I have seen that I could go kill, but they're not going anywhere. So I'm like, let's go see what the DLC is. And oh man, the DLC is such a treat. Like, I've made it all the way to the first shortcut. So I've made it without dying too. I'm so shocked because everything I come across, I'm like, oh, that looks scary. I'm just taking my time, dodge, killing everything. And I made it, unlock the shortcut from the whole section without dying. And I felt so freaking accomplished. I even killed this thing that had the blades on its arms, which I'm like, oh my God, I do so little damage on this thing, but I killed it without dying. And I'm just stunned because everywhere I read, the DLC is supposed to be extremely punishing and just like overwhelmingly difficult. So I was going in there prepared to die like really bad. And there's a lot of hunters and stuff, but no, I comfortably navigated it. I was like, oh, is this what it's like to be good? Or is this what's going on? I got some really cool armor. Like, I look so cool. I got like this weathered hat and all this stuff just flowing off me. Favorite armor set so far. And so after I made it to the shortcut, just had a good time, like really fun time. It reminded me of my first Bloodborne stream where I was just progressing slowly, cautiously, and just having a good time. So it was great. And I was about to sign off and people were like, you're so close to the boss, just book it, run to the boss. I'm like, okay. So I ran into the boss to find Ludwig the Accursed, which is the most disgusting thing. Well, it's not the most, but it's very disgusting. It's got mouths with eyeballs. It's got so many weird things and a horse face in there. And I tried to fight it and I died pretty quick. I was like, oh, confidence down again. How am I going to take this on? So anyways, that's what I have to look forward to next time. Even though I ran through everything, I'm going to take more of my time to go through the next zone to progress to Ludwig. I want to go finish the Canehurst boss I think he's next on the list, and we're at 9 now. So I could probably get two to 3 bosses in the next stream, and then there should be about 6 left. So, oh boy, join me as I get through this game. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're almost there. I have no idea how difficult, like these are the last bosses of the game, so they're probably going to be really hard. And who knows how much time it's going to take me, but we got this, and we're going to go through it. So I'll see you on the next stream or the next journal, and until next time, keep it classy.
You were at my side all along, my guiding moonlight.
Well, I finally met my match in Bloodborne. Frickin' Ludwig. I carry his sword through the whole game, and now he is my first major... I am familiar with your slug. Welcome back, Classic Crew, to a Bloodborne journal as I journey through Bloodborne trying to hunt all 22 bosses to complete a pledge that I made without realizing what I was pledging to, not realizing that it included DLC and this horrid Ludwig. If I had just pledged the base game, I would probably be done by now. But here we are, grinding through the DLC. Last time I left you, there were 9 bosses remaining. Now there are 7 remaining, and Ludwig still remains despite me fighting him for over half a stream. So last time I had made it through the DLC up to unlocking the shortcut, and then I booked it to see the boss. Saw it was Ludwig. He slammed his whole meat at me, and I was dead. So I didn't really get to understand or appreciate the fight other than, oh, I have to fight that thing next. So when I started this time, I took my time to go from the lantern to the boss. There was some unexplored area because I just booked it through there. So I took my time to explore. I found the whirlgig saw, which is like a pizza cutter, which is so freaking awesome. I really love how it works. But at this point, I'm like, is it too late to start grinding out a new weapon? And a big part of me says yes. Like, that is a big time commitment just to get another weapon on par to see if I like it. I have to relearn how to use it. But I'm going to hold it on just in case, you know, I want to venture into a new game plus someday and try a new different weapon path. So I got that. I got to play around with it. And then I made it to Ludwig. And I was like, all right, Ludwig, I hear is hard. I also didn't even stand a chance last time. So let's go in, cool mind, cool body. Let's just see what happens. And I walk in and boom, I'm dead. So I was like, it's okay. It's okay. It's part of the game. My mind is not picking up what the boss is throwing at me. So you just got to keep going in. So a few slaughters later, I finally understood that, okay, he screams, he slashes, and I started to understand his moveset. And more importantly, I learned it's all about the dodge left. Always dodge left. So when he comes at you, you dodge left. He swipes at you, dodge left. He screams at you, dodge left. Everything can be avoided by dodging left, and then it just becomes a timing thing, of which I was not very good at, so I kept missing it. But it didn't take me too long to get phase 1 down and to learn that there is a phase 2, of which everybody seems to like really love and get really excited about. I honestly don't understand the hype. But anyways, here we are at phase 2 where he has Moonlight Sword. And I can't say I've learned anything because I got to see phase 2 maybe half a dozen times last stream, and I can't say I know how to fight him because I didn't even come close to killing him. Like, I just cannot stay alive against his second phase, which means I can't recognize his attacks and I can't defend or counter them. So that's where I am with this wall. I just can't dodge this thing. He swings so many things. I get caught in his combos and I'm dead. No! Now, I've done a little bit of research to prepare myself for the next stream, and I've learned that you have to be extremely patient with this phase 2, and I've learned that not locking on is very helpful because then you can roll and you get more iframes apparently. So I'm going to try that next stream. I'm really looking forward to trying that because he looks very like Nameless King in terms of fight, where it's like, oh, these massive like sword swing combos, and you just got to like roll, swing once, roll, swing once. So I think if I can get in the pattern, and from what I've seen, it's don't lock on, roll to the left, stay to his butt, and when you're sure he's not attacking, smack it. And then keep repeating. And I think I can do that. Also, I'll be in a fresh mindset. My personal stamina will be back. So I have a lot of confidence that in the next stream, it might take some time, but I'm going to come at it refreshed. I'm going to come at it with new appreciation of what this boss can do. And it's all going to be about, you know, let's just put 2 and 2 together. This boss takes about 3 minutes to kill, maybe 3 to 5 if you're good. And I should be able to get through this so I can keep going and chasing my other 6 bosses to get this pledge to a close. I have to say I am really annoyed from the horse though. Like I had heard that thing scream into my ear for an hour, just an hour. I was committed, just going like, okay, we got to kill Ludwig. We got to kill Ludwig. I was just going back and forth and I was getting so annoyed just hearing the, like a stupid scream. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't hear this horse scream. At least Nameless King didn't scream at you. At least there was some awesome music in Arc Tempered Valkana. To be fair, I know the Ludwig music at school, but you hear the screaming in your ear all the time. So after I saw that this was a wall, I was like, oh, I need like a break. I need to change my mindset. Who's left on the menu? Oh yeah, Martyr Logarius. Let's go see him. I went back, almost got him on the first time, easy cleared him on the second time. I was like, oh man, this is easy peasy compared to Ludwig, especially with my more levels and more damage on my weapons, leveled up weapons and stuff. So Martyr Logarius is done. Cleared him out easy. Then I got even more of the castle and Vale. I was like, oh my God, this thing keeps going. I thought we were done. But luckily, it's just a little bit of a lore part where you get to meet the queen. You kneel to the queen. And then this, I think, she gives you a crest, which then I was told you have to bring to Alfred. So we did the whole Alfred quest. And Alfred wanted to go to the castle. And then he killed the queen and turned her into a fetus or something. It's so messed up. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on. And then he started laughing like crazy. I'm like, oh, great. He's going to go crazy. I'm going to have to kill him. But no, he left the castle and he died of his own accord. Anyway, so the queen was dead. Alfred was dead. I was like, oh, well, that sucks. I started getting some levels. So I looked into like, what should I level at this point? I think I'm at level 75. My strength is at 40. So I hear it's soft cap. So I was about to level. I go to level up my strength and I could get 3 more attack points by leveling up strength. And then I looked at my skill, which is at level 12. It's like, and moving that up gave me 7 more points of strength to my attack. So I was like, oh my God, it's time to level up skill. So I've just been dumping all the levels I get, go straight into skill, and I get like 5 to 7 more attack on each level. It's just great. So I'm really buffing up my attack by leveling up skill at this point. Then I was like, oh yeah, there's still that daughter of the cosmos, Bredis or whatever. Let's go see her. And then I got her on the first try. So this was my second try ever at her. And I just went at her and I was like, all right, let's not lock on. Let's avoid the tentacles and let's smack the bum. Good old typical Dark Souls strategy. Worked like a charm. So she died. I can't say she was much of a challenge. I think Ludwig just made everything so ridiculously hard. All these other bosses just like boom, boom, boom. And then I got to go to a pillar and grab something which like rewinds time. So I brought it back to the queen. We turned the fetus back into the queen. And it's like nothing ever happened. So Alfred died for nothing, which is another sad ending. And then after that, I went back to Ludwig, thinking I was refreshed. I wasn't. I tried putting fire on my sword. It killed phase 1 faster, but it didn't really do a big difference. I tried going into like single hand sword mode for Ludwig, phase 2. It was better. It gave me more time to react, but it didn't make a big dent in my gameplay. So, I don't know. I have to try a whole bunch of things next week to see what happened. So with all that done, I have really little place to go. So I didn't want to, I was late, I was tired. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just go grind chalices. So I went through the root chalice to get all the blood I need to unlock the medium chalice. There's like a story progression to the chalices. So I think I finished the root, unlocked the next one, which I think is the central chalice. I'm almost done, or I think I did finish the central chalice, which now takes me to another chalice. And at this point, this stuff is like super easy. Everything dies to one hit. So I'm just kind of clearing through that, picking up items and things that can hopefully level up some of my other weapons just for funsies. And it's just kind of a nice breather when I don't want to be banging my head against Ludwig. So the next stream, if you want to follow along, it will be me playing with Ludwig for, I hope not 4 hours. And then I'll be taking a break on Ludwig for chalices. And if I break through, well, then I get to see what the other bosses are in this DLC. I have to say, despite the BS, I'm a fan. Like, I don't think Ludwig is a bad fight. I just think the game asks a lot of you. And I've seen this in those other epic fights I've had in Monster Hunter, Dark Souls. And this one is no different. It's just, you got to persevere, you got to be patient, and you just got to get your reflexes aligned and notice how the boss moves, see the tails, put it all together, and we're going to get over it. So I'm convinced. I'm not like fearful. I'm like, okay, we've done this dance before. We can get through this. I got you. So let's see if I can take down Phase 2 Ludwig next week, or tonight, I should say, when this video comes out. And hopefully I'll see you then. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next journal. And until next time, keep it classy. So a half man, half horse walks into a bar, and the bartender goes, "Hey, why the long face?" And he cries and he says, "Because I lost to Heijie." Welcome back, Classic Crew, to another Bloodborne journal as I journey through Bloodborne for the first time and try to slay all 22 bosses. And last time there were 7, now there are 4. So much progress has been made. The horse and the man who's the horse, or the horse who's the man, there's a lot of horse and man put together, is dead. I killed Ludwig. My first really real wall of Bloodborne has fallen, and it took some time. I mean, I think in total it was 4 hours between the 2 streams. I'm so glad it didn't take an entire stream to go through. But once I cleared him, the other 2 after were pretty nice and comfortable, and I don't know what lies beyond. So I'm in this kind of happy, innocent or ignorant or both place where everything's beautiful again, because we don't know what pain awaits in the last 4 bosses of this challenge. But anyways, so as I went back into the Ludwig fight, this is where my notes are, I went in with the strategy, okay, when we get into Phase 2, I'm going to not lock onto him and roll. I found out very quickly that is not the way to go. I don't know how these other YouTubers do it. I was watching them, I was like, oh, that looks really good and really easy. You just roll, smack. When I did it, it was roll, smack, where I was getting smacked. So I was like, this doesn't feel right. The camera's going everywhere. It's confusing. So I locked in and I just learned to jump through his attacks, which took quite a while. I've also switched to the cleaver. So I went in, I was like, oh, let's try how it feels with the switch blade or whatever it's called. And as I was going in it, I realized my stamina management was a lot easier with this weapon. It's also the weapon I've been using for most of my playthrough, so I'm a lot more comfortable with it. I don't really want to learn a new weapon at this stage, and I was enjoying myself. So Phase 1, I was getting through it a lot more consistently, and it was just more comfortable to fight with that flexibility of, you know, 3 hits and my stamina's gone. I couldn't do that with the Ludwig sword, but with the cleaver, whatever it's called, the switch cleaver, that worked better. So I took some time to go and level it up because it wasn't up to snuff. So we leveled it up, and then I still was having troubles with Phase 2, and I was getting frustrated that it was taking me so long to get to Phase 2, and I was like, I gotta do more damage on Phase 1 so I can practice Phase 2 more often. Like, Phase 1 is just taking me so long to get through. By the time I get to Phase 2, I'm either almost dead or I'm just tired or it's not working. So a viewer suggested that they suggested a dungeon for me to go and grind out gems, which is something I have not really done in this game, gem grinding. So I went to this dungeon where you go in and you fight kind of one of those like ogre dudes, mobs, ogre guys. And he was pretty easy. You jump into the ring with him, you wait for him to like lift his sword, you shoot him in the face, and then you start. You do that a few times, and then sometimes he drops 3 like healing things, or he will drop a really good gem. So I did that for about a half hour or so, and ended up getting some really good gems, which ended up giving me like a plus in total. When I put the 2 gems in, I got over 100 plus attack on my weapon. And while I was grinding him out, I was getting souls, or whatever it's called, echoes. And by the end of everything, I got to go back against Ludwig with another 10 levels. I did feel like I was a little bit underleveled for Ludwig. I think I was at like level 77, I want to say. But after I bumped it up to like the late 80s, I bumped up my weapon. It just felt like everything clicked. And of course, a few attempts, and I just got like a really nice break on Ludwig where I was like dodging right through all of his attacks. And I even got to do a visceral attack on him, which was super satisfying. And I killed him. And it was like, the endorphin rush. It was so satisfying to kill this thing. I wasn't really like frustrated with him. It was just a fight where I just acknowledged I was missing that skill. And I'm just like, gotta get better, gotta get good. And I got good because I killed him. And then I talked to the head, and then the head explained, I forget what he explained, but basically he got his final moment. And I understand this is a character who lost himself to his nightmare, to his madness, to his lust, turned into a beast, but then he got to transform back temporarily into a human to have his final fight with me so he could die with honor. And then he talked to me as a decapitated head. Oh, this is what happened. His horse head was talking to me, and then he started going crazy, and I was like, oh, and then I got the like super magical sword of the moon. I was like, oh, I can wield this. And then I saw, oh no, you need 50 arcane. Screw that. I have like 12. We're not going to use this. So then I kept exploring and made it to a place with 2 hunters, which they took me a little bit of time because I went for the girl who was like there, and then she's a caster, I learned. Didn't know that some douchebag would show up from behind me and like try to stab me. So that killed me. Second time, I'm like, all right, if I can kill the caster fast enough, I can deal with the guy after. Turns out I couldn't do DPS fast enough, so I got ganked and killed. And then finally, after a while, I realized, wait, what if we pull them amongst the beds, and I use the beds to separate them, very much like my Smo and what's his face. And that helped me clear them pretty easily. So then we went to the next section, which was actually quite fun to explore, was the hospital. I was quite comfortable. I still, to this point, don't understand. Before I got into the DLC, I was reading on message boards how difficult it was, preparing myself mentally. And everybody was going on about, like, the message that I was reading was that monsters were killing people, like, super easy. And I have to say, if there's one thing I feel very comfortable with, is my just natural progression in the DLC. Bosses aside, the mobs and everything feel fine. Now, this is probably because you can access the DLC sooner, and perhaps these other members tried to attempt the DLC at like level 40 or 50. I think I'm at the right point, and it just like naturally lets me, like, the difficulty is ramping up nicely with where I'm at. So I got to explore the hospital. It's full of these like dudes who their brains or their heads like turn into tumors. I got to pick up my own tumor so I could blend in, but they didn't believe it because they still attacked me. So we had a good time. I killed everything in there, and I made it all the way to the top. It was kind of a cool level too, how you have to there's a bit of a puzzle element where you have to move the stairs, spin them to get to the right doorway. I quite enjoyed that area. I thought it was very well designed. Finally, I made it to a great metaphor for my life. I joke. This is the living failure boss. I was surprised that they would follow up Ludwig with a boss that was this easy. Like, I was kind of wailing on these living failures. I'm like, okay, this is pretty easy. And then out of nowhere, I'm like, something's going to happen. There's going to be a phase 2. And of course, phase 2 shows up. And it's meteors that come out of the sky and just destroy me. So I'm like, all right, well, that's the gimmick. So then I learned that I can use like the sunflower in the middle to protect myself from the meteors. And you can see where the meteors are going to come from based on where the characters are looking. So once I got that in, I'm like, all right, meteor time, hide behind the sunflower, whack, 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 kill all the living failures. We overcame the living failures. Therefore, we are not a living failure. And if you've done it too, you're also, and actually, if you're viewing this, you're not a living failure at all. That's not even a joke. I'm going to go down the path. Which then led us immediately to the next boss, which I have to say, I think this is potentially, let me think about it. I think this is my favorite boss in Bloodborne. Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. I got a crush on her immediately upon like encountering her. She's elegantly dressed. She knows how to fight. There's some nice music, beautiful scenery. She doesn't have cheesy one-liners that's taunting you all the time. She doesn't laugh in an annoying way. She doesn't have bullshit. She's just a freaking good hunter who knows how to dress well, and she will take you to town. And the dance, like, it was just so fun. Like, I'm just like, oh, I can just dodge through the attack, stab, dodge, stab, and it's just going back and forth. And then she's like, I'll stab myself, and I was like, you're what? And then she pulls blood out, and she's like, whoosh, whoosh, I got blood. So that made it intense. And then I got to phase 3 where she's like, whoosh, whoosh, more blood with fire. I was like, okay, stop it. You're just being ridiculous now. But I didn't really feel like, and this is at the end of the stream, so I'm 3 hours in. This is at the point where I tend to get tired, but I was really like motivated to fight her. I was really enjoying it. And I was just finding some good success in dodging. Like, it was really just the sidestep into her attack. So it's just wait, she attacks, you dodge into it so you don't get hit, then you're behind, you get a hit, and you just keep repeating that. And then even when she pulls out her blood, it's the same thing. You just gotta like dodge into the blood, and then when the fire comes out, it's a little bit trickier. You dodge through the blood, you get burnt a bit, but then you smack her, and she dies. And it was just like, I'm like, okay, why does From Software always put the good stuff like at the end of the journey? If it's anything like Dark Souls 3, where the final boss was a fantastic boss. I really enjoyed that one. So Lady Maria is currently my top boss. I think everybody loves Ludwig. I'm gonna say no. Lady Maria beats Ludwig hands down. I'll say Ludwig is the harder fight and maybe the more satisfying fight and the one that gives you more dopamine, but Lady Maria is better. So we're gonna go with that. So I know I have 2 bosses left in the DLC. I hear that they are just as hard, if not harder than Ludwig. And then I've got my 2 story bosses, which are apparently also difficult, but I don't know to what level. So I am either 1 or 2 streams away from finishing this game, unless I find another wall, then it could be another month or 2. So join me as I wrap this up. 4 bosses left, and Pledge will soon be complete. And then who knows where we go. Maybe we go to Elden Ring and have fun in that world. So I'll see you on the next journal or on the next stream. And until next time, keep it classy. 3 months ago, I started Bloodborne, and I pledged to defeat all 22 bosses in the game. Today, I can finally say, pledge complete. Welcome back, everybody, to a Hey Jay journal a Bloodborne journal, where I document my entire journey through Bloodborne, hunting all 22 bosses and completing my pledge. Today, we're done. The last 4 bosses have fallen. Those include Orphan of Kost, Lawrence of the First Vicar, German, the First Hunter, and the Moon Presence. That's what was left on my list, and they're done. Oh my goodness, that was a lot harder than I was expecting. When I started Bloodborne, I sampled it in my 12 days of Hey Jay over the holiday break, and I got addicted to it in my first game session. I played 5 hours straight, it was hard to put down, and I cleared through the first 2 bosses easily. In fact, one boss that's often considered a wall, I got on my first try. So I got a little cocky with this pledge, and not really realizing how much harder the game would get, I pledged to kill everything in it. Now, if I take you back through my Soulsborne journey a little bit, when I tried Dark Souls, I went in it cautiously, thinking it would have the same effect on me as when I went into Monster Hunter. It did not, and in that pledge, I only pledged to go to the credits, so a few monsters, or a few bosses, one boss, has been left unkilled in that game, which is Manus. Man, I hate that thing. And then in Dark Souls 3, I figured, let's give it a chance, and I like Dark Souls 3 more, but again, I was a little bit cautious with my pledge, and I didn't kill everything in that game. I made it through most of the DLC, but I left a dragon and a lady alive in those games. So with Bloodborne, the fact that my first stream went so well, I said, screw it, let's go all in, let's kill everything. And I have to admit, there's a few times I was like, have I bitten more than I can chew here? Because there's no way I can beat these monsters. Why do I keep calling them monsters? So anyways, last time I finished Maria, which is a fantastic boss, and I was left with not really knowing where to go. There was a big clock tower, and I didn't know what was beyond that clock tower. So I discovered through that clock tower there's a fish village, and the fish village was quite comfortable to navigate up until we encountered a well. Good luck with that one, editor. And everybody was like, go in the well, go in the well. I was like, I'm pretty sure I should not go in the well if the whole chat is saying go in the well. But for the funnies and to entertain everyone, I was like, all right, let's go see what's in there. And I was promptly greeted to a big chunky shark, which I had encountered previously on the surface, and he ate me pretty quick. So I was like, screw it, I'm not doing the well. And they're like, oh, it's one of the best items, you got to do it. So I was like, okay, fine. I was in a challenge mood, so I was like, all right, let's just kill this thing. And I didn't know there were 2 at first. I thought there was 1. So I fought it, and I was doing good. It was at half health, and then the second one drops from the ceiling. I was like, oh no, why must there be 2? And this whole time I can hear the brain singing somewhere like the la la la. I'm like, oh, where's that coming from, and where is it gonna show up? Anyways, I killed both, and I got a weapon. I think it's Maria's weapon, which is pretty cool, but unfortunately I don't have the right stats for it, so I can't use it this playthrough. So that was my only achievement of that stream, and I'm covering 2 streams, by the way. Afterwards, I kept going through and exploring the village. It was quite comfortable, except for the times I died. And I finally encountered the Orphan of Kos, which is supposed to be one of the hardest bosses in this entire genre pre-Elden Ring. I can't comment on post-Elden Ring. So Orphan of Kos, in my first encounter, was not too crazy. I went at it cautiously, and I got the feel of it pretty quick, where it's okay, he punishes you hard if you go in the wrong place, but if you watch him, you can dodge through his attack forward, you can smack him once, maybe twice, and then you can pull away, and it's just a matter of doing that over and over. That said, that requires a lot of concentration, focus, and some level of luck, so I died a lot. After about an hour and a half of banging my head on that guy, I was like, screw this, is there anything else we can do? And people are like, oh, there's one more boss you could try called Lawrence the First Vicar, which it seems most people hate. So I'm like, all right, let's go do that. And I got quickly just tossed aside by Lawrence. That was a fight I just could not feel and understand. And it screams as well. There's so much screaming in that fight. So I did a few rounds on him, and I just couldn't progress. I was like, I don't see it clicking here. This is not going to work. And so I retired after that stream, closed the stream. I was like, oh man, how am I going to get through this? This is so hard. And I know I've said this so many times, but this is the pattern of Bloodborne or Dark Souls, either game. And so the following week I came back, and I honestly had one of the most stressful weeks, like a really stressful week. I was not in a good mood. And coming to the stream, I was like, there's no way I am mentally in a place to take on such stressful bosses. And so I kind of resigned myself of, you know what? Who cares? We're not gonna worry about making progress. I have a scheduled stream. I'm going to make some tea. I'm going to come and chill with people on chat, and we're just gonna have fun. We're just gonna have fun. I mean, we have fun all the time, but I took the let's make progress out of my mindset. I'm like, I'm probably not going to beat any of these bosses, but I'm going to try. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to enjoy my tea. I'm going to enjoy my chat. And we're just going to keep trying all night. And that's what I'm going to do with my evening. And I think that mindset really helped, because I went in there with, I went against Orphan of Kos right away, and I was having a good time. We were trading blows. I was dying. He was laughing, screaming, but it was a good time. And I was actually enjoying the dance. The thing with Orphan is he's very punishing, but the dance is very fair, and it reminds me very much of the Nameless King, where if you mess up, you're pretty much dead, but if you dodge at the right time, that's where you get your blow, and it's kind of a repeat. So after a bit of time, I was like, I'm not feeling it still, so maybe I should just grind some levels, get a little bit more damage so I can get to phase 2. So I was getting through phase 1 a few times, but I was just getting blown away by phase 2. His phase 2 I couldn't deal with, so I was like, I gotta get through phase 1 faster so I can practice more with phase 2. So I went and killed this big ogre a few times and grinded about 10 levels, which shot my attack up by 100. It was a noticeable difference, nothing crazy, but I went back at about a level 100 to fight Orphan, and it just went well. I was getting into phase 2 more often. I learned about the backstab, which everybody was telling me that I should start doing, since I am using the sword of, what's his name? Ludwig's sword. So I started realizing where his opening were from behind, so I could invasion sensation him. For those who don't know, that's when you shove the sword in the back end, and that created a big opening and took a big chunk of his health. So now I was getting into a rhythm of okay, I understand he's gonna throw 4 or 5 moves at me. I know what they are. I know how to dodge them, so I know how to do that part. Now I know how to shave off a big chunk of health with the Bloodborne invasion sensation. And phase 2 was a matter of, okay, he's very fast, he's very aggressive, let's learn the move, let's dodge. And after a few rounds, I actually understood phase 2 faster than I understood phase 1, and I killed him. Just a matter of putting it all together. Bim bum boom. I was like, oh my god, I didn't think I'd be making progress. I actually killed Orphan of Kos, and I was like, all right, well, let's go see if we can do this with Lawrence. Probably not, because everybody's like, oh, Lawrence is bullshit. I'm like, yeah, Lawrence is bullshit. I don't like him either. And I went in there with the sword. I tried the same strategy. I'm like, maybe I can get an invasion sensation on him. I couldn't. I was like, all right, let's try lightning on him. It didn't work. Okay, let's try a new weapon. So I went out and got the sword that looks like a whip, and I was like, all right, time to pull out my old Castlevania days. So anyways, I went in there and I started wailing on because I had a distance problem. I felt like I couldn't get close to him with my sword, so that's why I went with the whip. And I was also very curious to try this whip weapon. So I leveled it up so it was decent. I think I got up to like grade 8 or something, or grade 9. And I went at it and was barely making any damage on him. I was like, oh, this is not good. And I wasn't liking the moveset. It wasn't satisfying. So I abandoned that strategy. And I went back to my original cleaver, and I went in there. Chat was also saying that was a good weapon to go in. So I was like, all right, I don't think so. Like, it's very short range, but they're like, yeah, it's fast. You get in, cha-cha, you get out. So I went in, cha-cha, and I saw how much health it was doing, and it's because it's a beast. I was like, oh my goodness, this is way better than all the other weapons. And the speed actually did give me more maneuverability. So I'm like, all right, I think I can do this. And I just kind of like focused on get in, get your hits, get away, learn about his 3 swipes. And it all kind of came together again, the whole peace of mind. And I killed him, thus clearing the DLC. I was so excited. I was like, all right, now let's wrap up this pledge and go kill the last story bosses. At this point, I was pretty much convinced that if I could get rid of the 2 DLC bosses, the story bosses would fall easily. And that's kind of the general consensus around chat. So I went, finally faced off against German, and he punished me hard. I was like, this is a lot harder than I was expecting. What were you all saying? This boss is not easy. He's got like the huge scythe. He's fast. And then he's got multi-phases. So like as I was getting comfortable, he started shooting me. I was like, oh no. And then he like broke his sword into 2. It was just fast and punishing. I was like, oh no, this is going to take me a while. And it took me quite a few, like maybe a half a dozen attempts to take him down. He was a lot harder than I thought he would be. But with some perseverance and some trial and error, I finally made it through. He reminded me of the first fight, which with, I think Gascoigne was his name, but just dialed up a lot more, like a lot harder. So with him out of the way, I did get to unlock the special boss after him, which was the moon presence, because I ate all my umbilical cords. And so this thing comes out of the moon, which is like a big tentacle monster. I was like, oh, what the heck is this now? And it has the most bullshit move. And honestly, I beat it on my first try, and I don't know how. It looks at you with red eyes, and your whole health just goes, boop, no more health. I got lucky, and I had like 1 HP left, so I recovered from that. I was not in the mindset of winning. I was like, there's no way. What the heck is this thing? It's aggressive. It moves fast. It has a lot of tentacles. It one-shots me with its eyes. But I just kept wailing on it. I'm like, no, I don't want to fight like the last boss again, not knowing that you don't have to fight it even if you fail. But I'm like, I don't want to fight it again. And I'm just like, boom, 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 dodge, trying my best. And somehow I made it. And the moon presence died. My pledge was complete, and I turned into a slug. I really don't understand the ending of this game. Why am I a slug? There's no point in any part of the game where I was like, oh yeah, my goal in life is to be a slug. But apparently people are telling me this form is like you're some like all-powerful being as a slug, and I'm dreaming because my doll is like petting me and saying like, keep dreaming, good hunter. It is the most messed up ending, but it's so appropriate for this game. I don't know these games. I don't know the lore. I don't know what's going on. And you can all say it's because I don't look enough into it, but come on. I'm sure most of us who have gone through these games end up with, what the heck's going on? Because if we didn't, there wouldn't be so many videos on YouTube with like 1 million views of what is the lore of Bloodborne or Dark Souls. I'm not alone here. So overall, it's done. And through sheer luck, I think the way I worded my pledge allows me to not have to do a certain queen, which I'm aware exists, and that is potentially the hardest boss ever. So, because I pledged to do 22 bosses, and I killed 22. So I don't know why this queen, which is in the chalices, doesn't count as like a boss, but hey, she's on my pledge, and I got Elden Ring to go. So off we go to the next pledge. I'm going to be sharing what the Elden Ring pledge is going to be in a few weeks, as well as what the schedule is going to be. But it's going to be on Tuesdays. We're going to start that in April. Before that, I do want to double down and take a little break and do... I've never played the Devil May Cry series, and I've always been curious about it. So I'm going to pledge to play that franchise. But I'm only going to do the first game for now before I dive into Elden Ring. Otherwise, Bloodborne, this pledge made me second guess myself a lot of times, but man, it gave me so much confidence at the end of what I could actually do in video games and what my skills are and what my skills can be. And those rushes are well worth it. And I think that there's a metaphor there for life somewhere. I'm not going to like be the philosopher that says it. I guess my only tip is if you yourself have played Bloodborne and you haven't completed it, just keep trying. Don't give up. The real magic of these games is the more you play, the more you fight the bosses, the more your mind learns the pattern. And sometimes these things can take hours. And I also want to share that there's often a lot of discussions of which is harder, Monster Hunter or Dark Souls or Bloodborne. And a lot of people seem to say Monster Hunter. And I always think about that as I play these games, because I personally do feel that Dark Souls and Bloodborne is harder. However, I have to say that my walls in Monster Hunter took me longer to overcome. Like Arc-Tempered Velkhana took me 20 hours to fight, whereas my walls in Bloodborne and Dark Souls took me at most 2 to 3 hours. Now that said, if we measure it that way, I don't think it's fair, because a hunt in Monster Hunter takes 30 to 50 minutes for the hard walls, whereas a fight in Bloodborne Dark Souls takes 2 to 5 minutes, and if you're really getting slapped around, less than that. So I think that they are very different beasts, and to a certain extent, Monster Hunter requires more stamina because you have to fight these like walls so much longer. But both are difficult in their own way, and it's very hard, I think, to compare them side by side. Monster Hunter, you have a whole different type of set of tools and options to take out a boss. You do have those tools and options in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but I do think that they are more limited in terms of your options compared to the other one. So that, with that said, I do enjoy these challenges. I am returning to older games that I had troubles with. I'm like, I wonder what my skill can do now. And it's really empowering to feel this progression as a gamer. So I'm looking forward to continuing to play these games and challenging myself. I don't want to turn this channel into a challenge channel, because I just don't need that kind of stress in my life, but I do like the reasonable challenges. So I'll see you on the next video, on the next pledge. I look forward to sharing what that's going to be. So until next time, keep it classy.